guys, I'm Katie Room from Periapsis Press, and today I just wanted to talk a little bit about some kind of ongoing conversations that I've had with various people on Twitter about politics and entertainment in general, very broadly, and so sort of looking at what I'm seeing as far as different arguments that are kind of showing up in this discussion. I think it's really interesting that I've had several conversations about this kind of thing lately because Red Letter Media did that video, particularly about the Acolyte, and they talked about some political things that were, they felt were present at the same time as the show was mediocre, and they talked about the possibility that those things were actively detracting from the quality of the show. So that was interesting. I've had 3 conversations with different people tangentially related, and they've been across the spectrum politically, I would say. And also, I heard that Eric July did a video and EVS did a response video, right, of course. So I just think that it's very, very interesting that we're sort of having this conversation in a broad swath of our corner of the internet, I guess. I just want to say hello real quick to everybody in the chat. Hi to Christopher Brand and to Patrick. John Douglas, hi. Doing some errands, nice. William Jeffrey Rankin. So Patrick said, one thing I didn't wish was political politics. And then he said, my next 2 episodes will be religion and sex, and then we'll finally get episodes on veganism, crypto, and essential oils. I can't stand anything that like smells super intensely that you're supposed to like just have on your person. Like I can't walk into Bath and Body Works, and so the idea of essential oils just kind of is like an ick for me. It's like I would smell it all the time. And then, of course, across the spectrum, oh, she means libertarians. Actually, I don't think I talked to any libertarians. Isn't that funny? William Jeffrey Rankin says, I'm acolyted out, even over-acolyted. All right. Thank you guys so much for coming, and I appreciate seeing you guys in the chat and you guys participating. So I will just add my iconic slides here, which are more for me than they are for you, but they keep me focused. So I've titled this one Everything is Political, since that is sort of the jumping off point that I want to take today. And it is, I think, the attitude of pretty much everybody I talked to or saw talking about these kinds of things. Quick news thing. My Discord community is going to be doing a book club in the coming weeks. We're going to discuss the first story in Silence and Star Song Volume 1 on Thursday, July 18th. If you are not part of the Discord and would like to be, reach out to me. I don't know. The Discord is going to decide together if we're going to live stream the discussion or if we're just going to have it within the community. So if you're interested in participating, please let me know. Patrick says I'm going to read all of them. Good. My intention is to do one a week, if that makes sense. So I scheduled this first one out a little bit so that people could get a hold of the book magazine if they didn't have it. I think several people in the Discord already had it, so that's convenient for everybody. And then short stories. So I feel like that should be doable to do one a week. We'll see. We'll see. It'll be fun either way. Also, of note, Silence and Star Song Volume 2 is currently on, I think it's Indiegogo. I put the link in the description if you're interested in backing that, if you haven't already. Yeah, so just wanted to put that on your radar, guys. Recent review that I did was Afterlight by Jonathan Sugar. This is the sequel to In Darkness Cast. I was going to say Shades of Black, but I was like, but that's the series name. So great sequel. Took the story in new directions while building on stuff that was strong in the first one. Really enjoyed overall. So I definitely recommend that you guys check this out. And there's a link to my full review in the description as well. Okay. Everything is political. So this is the meme that I used to respond to somebody who was being well, I'll show you some of the tweets. I think that this concept gives people like conniptions if they are of the opinion that everything's political. And I was going to talk about it for a little bit here. First, I want to talk about like what do I mean when I say that I don't want politics in my entertainment. And that's because everything is political is a response to customers, readers, gamers, everybody, right? Who say that they don't want politics in their entertainment. And I don't think that I'm misspeaking to say that this is broadly what people mean. But I'll just phrase it as me personally. I never want to realize that the people behind my entertainment, writers, producers, directors, the actors themselves, I never want to realize that they either hate me, they think I'm the bad guy, or think that I'm dumb and need to have things explained to me like I'm 5, right? Or that is an attitude of both the way that themes and values are treated within the story and the way that people outside of the story talk about it and talk about me. It's not a content thing when you're saying within the story, right? It's not so easy as, oh, there is like, say, someone of color, like an actor of color, right? That means that they hate me, right? It's not like that. It is the treatment and the idea that the people behind that, I keep saying they because I'm trying to talk broadly about entertainment and not specifically about books. I usually talk specifically about books and I say authors, right? There is an attitude, a straw man that is supposed to represent the opposite of all good leftist opinions, right? And I'm supposed to be that person in the situation. That's what I don't like. Ultimate Kahuna says the only political substance I want in my stories is a disgusting amount of patriotism. Okay, so on the word patriotism, rabbit trail here. I tweeted about this. I got an email from, it was some promotional email. It was basically buy our product, right? But it was, they used the phrase, feel red, white, and blue. And I was just like, you don't feel red, white, and blue. You feel patriotic. It made me very, very angry in a way that it did not deserve. So when I say that I don't want politics in my entertainment, I don't mean that I don't prefer or desire the promotion of my own values, or that I would tolerate this sort of straw manning, ham-fisted or overt politics if I agreed with them, right? I have said many, many times, right, that what we're seeing sort of now in entertainment with politics has been present for a very, very long time in like Christian fiction, where the message is an extremely important element above and beyond any sort of entertainment value. And that bugs me. And I am a Christian, right? That's not something that I want, even if I agree with it. The Ultimate Kahuna says they identify as colors. Okay, so with this in mind, this sort of understanding of where I'm coming from, I'm going to look at the first person that I interacted with, and then a couple of other people, one that I interacted with, and another that I did not, and at that point decided I was going to do a video. So Carolyn Petit, doesn't matter. I have said many times before, there is no way, shape, or form in which what people like Grummy here are doing is not itself deeply, deeply political. It's all about maintaining and reinforcing the heteronormative, cis-normative, white supremacist, patriarchal status quo. Just garbage words. I hate that stuff. This is the tweet that I responded with the meme to, and it got a lot of great interaction. And this individual responded to me, pointing out that I had just recently, 2 days before, done a thread about the Christian virtues in Lord of the Rings, which was a completely different argument, and very, very interesting that those became linked. Points out, you just want those values to be so culturally dominant that they can pass as neutral, but it's all political. It's deeply political. It's a deeply political set of values that is not neutral or normal just because you happen to agree with it. So the argument here is sort of twofold. First, that everything is political, and second, that there is an active push that is always present for one way or the other. Patrick. So I'm sort of going to examine both of those ideas, because people on the opposite side of the political spectrum have a very similar outlook. And I think that's very interesting. Here's kind of how I have always, I guess, envisioned, thought about these things working particularly in fiction. Um, you have statements of truth, and then from the truth, you derive your values and your virtues, and then from there, your policies. Um, you know, like how the country should be run, right? Um, and the problem is that there is now such a stark divide over what the truth is and the values from which we draw our politics, that the truth itself is now considered political. And obviously, it would be impossible to write a story without values of some kind. That's just not the way that stories work. um, and from there, I concluded that, maybe it's a little pedantic to say that we don't want politics in our entertainment. First of all, um, the nuance is lost, especially on people who disagree with us, um, who see what we're doing as in direct opposition to what they're trying to do. But also, um, and like also to people who are on the right, on our side, right, um, who are similarly politics first people. Um, but people on both sides do want to see their values reflected. And those values have become inherently political. And then, of course, there's always the element of taste, right? What seems obvious and ham-fisted to me may be tolerable to other people. My cousin in high school just gobbled up Christian romances, and every single one had that cheesy conversion scene in it. And I read a couple of the books from her bookshelf because I had no books one time when I was on vacation there, and it was just like those parts that were preachy and sort of puppeting the two imaginary positions, they were intolerable to me. I couldn't, like, I just skip it, right? Like, let's skip to the part where they decide that they can actually be together and move on from there. But her bookshelf was full of those. So that's something that I can admit without feeling like I'm hiding something, like the fact that other people don't feel the same way as I do about every particular political element in a story. That is fair, I think, if that makes sense. Patrick, and they lived happily ever after on their Amish farm until somehow the Antichrist returned. Okay, so this was my first interaction with somebody who was more politically aligned with myself. This was in response to a different meme. I think I have it later. Same point, right? And he says, this is something too many Christians, conservatives, or right-wingers are absolutely wrong about. Lord of the Rings is political. Narnia is political. If a medium does not center real values, which are right-wing, the vacuum will be filled by left-wing values. If you strive to create a politically neutral space, what you're actually creating is a future left-wing space. Ultimate Kahuna says, I think part of the issue is that by extolling the values of one group, people automatically assume that you hate other groups, and that can't be allowed. It's become very, like, we have a two-party system in America, and it's very, like, you either say this or you think this, but it's not, it's like, it's not an itemized list, right? So if you pick one thing from this list that you don't agree with, then you're supposed to agree with everything on this list. And it just doesn't make any sense. But it becomes this sort of iceberg, right? Representation is like that, where we see representation appearing in games, in particular, I think was the original context of that conversation, right? And it doesn't just mean that there were people with different skin tones or with different sexualities or whatever. It means all of the other stuff. It just muddies the whole conversation. I agree. So Nakalor, I'm gonna guess is how you say that. You guys know I'm horrible at pronunciations. So what I'm seeing here is he is similarly saying politics and values are the same. And not just from him, but in general, we're seeing more of these assertions that we need to be overtly political in order to fight the culture war. Patrick says, welcome to being a libertarian. Boy, that old guy sure is terrible. Well, you must be the other old guy supporter. No, sir, they both should be tried for war crimes. Cue blank stare. How can you think that? We're really seeing some of that with like the media turning on Biden. We're just, it doesn't matter to some people. As long as the party, right? Whoever is picked, the party. It is like that with values, things, little things. William Jeffrey Rankin says, Lord of the Rings exhibits values, sure, but does this necessarily mean it's political? I agree. I would not say that it's political. I would say that if you know Tolkien's politics, then you can point to specific things and say, oh, he's showing his hand here, right? Like, but if you don't know, then it's the same thing with like Christian virtues that we were talking about earlier this week, where they are there so well crafted in that we can have an argument about whether or not the work as a whole is a Christian story, right? So yeah, it's I want to say that it's more nuanced, but Ultimate Kahuna, how busy is David on Tuesday nights? Tomorrow we have something. That's about as far as I know. I'm not a super duper organized person. Ultimate Kahuna brings up Gurren Lagann. I loved that show. Has strong ideas about evolution as a core element of the lore and storytelling, but it's so well done that it isn't laying it on my forehead. Yeah, that should be how it is. Patrick, the elves are isolationists. But they also give weapons to proxy groups. Guys, are the elves the USA? Revenant said, these anti-woke types were always the product of more subtle propaganda they came of age with. They only noticed woke now because it's too ham-fisted, from Gamergate to Comicsgate They seek a return to wholesome 90s diversity with the same message in more delicate packaging. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it seems to me that delicate packaging and subtle might be just generally the fact that they were packaged in good products, right? That they were delivered in good products. So for Revenant and for Macalor, it's not enough for it to be good. It needs to be actively promoting the opposite, right, of their political enemies. You guys. And I think this attitude comes out of the politics is downstream from culture tagline. I think there is a not insignificant number of people who see entertainment as a way to play politics. They're looking for strong positions against the leftist mainstream in right-wing rhetoric, not in better entertainment. To them, the camera angles and plot holes that the original poster mentioned as being the opposite or the more important issues to entertainment critics than the politics. To them, these things are less important than the politics, and they can't really understand why we would bother criticizing those less important elements, right, of a bad show. Hi to Anne. Thank you for coming. So then I just kind of want to take this idea and think about it. Is politically neutral a vacuum for leftist values? And I don't think so in entertainment, because part of it is that I have a very different ideal than a lot of other people. I don't want to recapture Marvel or bankrupt Disney. I don't want to establish some sort of parallel economy. I think that when you have institutions or companies that are trying to be politically neutral, I don't think that works at scale. I think you have to have people involved who care about the entertainment value, who care about telling a good story or making a good movie or showing they have to care more about those things than they do about making other people see the light, right? See things their way. And I don't think that is necessarily enforceable in a way that is like fair in an HR sort of way, right? You know what I mean? I think, and I don't, and that this is not the only reason that I don't want a parallel economy or institutional reform, right? Like I just don't care about those things generally. But if we're talking about is politically neutral a vacuum, then the place where I see that as being a possibility would be within an institution, right, where there isn't as much guidance for the goal, right? If that makes sense. Walton Smith says the mainstream is not leftist. I don't know if I. And how the fuck can a corporation be leftist? So if it makes if this makes sense, right? I don't want to like come across as like combative, so I'm trying to be careful here. From the way that we see things working right now, there's an active push in the mainstream to highlight certain viewpoints, and it is overtly done in publishing, which is where I'm most comfortable talking about stuff. But we also see stuff with the, and again, I don't know it, I'm not like super familiar with all of the nuanced arguments about stuff, but like the Sweet Baby Ink stuff that we saw recently, where companies were hiring people to basically be your what are they called? It just gone like straight out of my head. Your sympathy readers. That's not the right term. You guys know what I mean. To look for stuff that is not politically correct, and that attitude of prioritizing certain elements in publishing, the race and sexuality of the author, or the political affiliations, that is something that we see regularly. I saw a TikTok recently, not on TikTok, but where a literary agent said, if you reference Rowling in your blurb or your query to me, it's an automatic write-off because of Rowling's opinions about trans, right? So that attitude is invasive on so many levels of the organization, of the industry. So that is why we would say that the mainstream is leftist, and that's how corporations can be leftist, is people who, individuals working within the company who care more about their politics than they do about the purpose of the company. Guys, let me know if I explain my position well enough on that. Anne says, I have a working theory with lefty media that they view checking all the boxes as a sort of cleverness, where I would say, oh no, they're going to do a gay subplot, aren't they? Oh, they did. A lefty would have anticipated the plotline and seen it as good TM. And if it wasn't there, they would be mad. Sure. Still knitting for justice. Oh, yeah. As in JK. Yep, JK Rowling. Sorry. Yeah. When I say her name, I think of the spelling. And so like I didn't think I need to make sure that I'm clear about what I'm talking about here. Patrick says, this is what we're talking about in apologetics. By allowing the atheist or other side to talk you into neutrality, you're giving up your side. There is no neutrality. Sure. Ultimate Kahuna says, characters can break norms without being a mouthpiece of an ideology. Absolutely. Walton Smith says they prioritize making money. That's it. It's the opposite of leftist. Being nice to trans people does not equal leftism. That's being socially liberal because they think it's profitable. I can't say that I agree necessarily because I see the mainstream media, the mainstream entertainment industry, let's say, to make sure that we're not talking about journalism. I see them shooting themselves in the foot over and over and over again with these products. And the rhetoric around them being more about the boxes that they're checking ideologically than about the cool factor, right? The real cool or the entertainment value that they're delivering. So that would be my response there. If you are of the opinion that they are putting on a show because they think it's profitable, again with like Sweet Baby Inc., I think the issue was that they were basically paying people off, right? Like, please don't review bomb us. And yeah, that would severely cut into the bottom line if you thought that people were going to fry you for not having the right opinions, right? But I think that we've seen enough of the CEOs and the producers and people talking publicly about these kinds of things, about the purpose that they are directing the company towards has been very politically charged. Catching up on the chat here real quick. Ultimate Kahuna says social liberal in the modern day functions as a strong leftist. And says there's a point where it doesn't matter what you say if what you do is one ideological way. Okay. I'm gonna move on to my next point. Okay. Walton Smith says it's called corporate speak. They would turn on trans people in a nanosecond if the political winds change. Could be. I guess I don't really have strong feelings about what corporations or institutions do. And the reason that I feel that way is because I'm going to skip down to my third point here. I value indie alternatives. They are smaller scale, much smaller scale sometimes, and the motives and values are much, much more specific. So I I don't really feel the need to continue discussing whether or not um, corporations can be political um, or not. In my experience of the world, I have I have always seen companies doing political things, from cereal companies to Disney, obviously, right? Like, so I don't think that I need to be completely confident in their genuineness uh, to say that they are being political purposefully. Okay. Uh, One thing that so my second point was um, that if the mainstream did a course correction and started producing good entertainment that was quote unquote politically neutral, or it was more subtle or had delicate packaging, then that would be great for me personally. I would be happy. I think there is value in art that we disagree with. Uh, and I would prefer that that art be worth engaging and worth being called art, if that makes sense. Um, but my first love, right, is indies. And I have three things here that'll hit on. Um, First, we don't always think the same. Generally, we work from the same set of values because we're working off of the same understanding of truth. And that is something that I do value. But it isn't always necessarily the case that we line up on everything. And especially when we start talking politically, uh, the, there are some people that have no idea, right? No clue what their politics are. Uh, but I can make guesses, right? And uh, I talk about the themes and the values that I see in a story in my reviews because it it's interesting to me and it's important to people. Um, the second thing is indies don't hate me, and then I like or think that I'm an idiot, and then in parentheses I put or maybe they do. I don't know. Like that's kind of the point, right? Like I I don't want to feel like the author is attacking me or putting me on the spot. Like I would like to enjoy my story. And that's the third thing is they care about good entertainment. Uh, these are generally people I have a lot of. Uh, I've reviewed a lot of Christian authors. I've reviewed a lot of overtly political authors. And when I say they are overtly political, I mean like their Twitter, right? They personally, in their selling of themselves, market themselves as being a right wing alternative or something like that. Um, and uh, and I have people that again, like I don't know what their politics are, and I can make assumptions, but I don't necessarily know, and we may disagree on many things, but they have made an effort to provide me with good entertainment. Those things I'm seeing almost exclusively from indies right now. I very rarely come across stuff like that in mainstream entertainment. Okay, I'm just gonna peek at the chat. You guys have been going back and forth a little bit. Okay. Um, I am not certain if this is directed at me or somebody else in the chat. It's hard for me to keep track. Sorry, guys. Walton Smith says you don't want to be intellectually challenged in any way. And I would say this is a timely response if it's to me. I specifically said that I think there is value in art that we disagree with. And I have enjoyed many, 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 many things that were very, very clearly coming from a different worldview than mine. And I was able to enjoy them anyway. I think something that we see frequently on social media is a sort of accusation of conservatives or right wingers or whoever being lacking. This is media literacy. That's the term. Because we're willing to enjoy things that have a different political opinion from us. I see the conversation come up a lot in the sort of sci-fi enjoyers on the opposite side of the political spectrum from me, because they see science fiction as being particularly about challenging social norms and exploring politics and culture and things in ways that are critical of more traditional values, shall we say. So I want absolutely for other media to exist. I think that saying that I don't want to be intellectually challenged is an unfair accusation, because primarily we're talking about entertainment. And when I want to be intellectually challenged, I don't reach for entertainment. Patrick says, tisk tisk, you guys have been talking when the teacher's been talking. Walton Smith says, I'd say they lack empathy more than media literacy. And that's too tired for me to even respond to. Okay. I was expecting much more to be preaching to the choir here, all my my usual people. So I'm very, very excited to be talking with Walton and having this conversation. So normally I spend very, very little time on this because I talk about it so often. Escapism is important in fiction. And my point here is particularly in relation to the people who would generally agree with me politically, ideologically, that it's important for even quote unquote our stuff, right, to be good entertainment that allows escapism, because the truth and values that are communicated by the story are most effective when the individual can set aside their reality and escape to a very well organized, right? Well delivered, good story, entertainment generally, right? Experience things like bravery, resilience, um, like virtues, right? As well as values and truth, sort of in a unplugged way. And then to return to their unique experience and be able to apply those things. Refreshed, revitalized, energized. And when you start telling people how to apply those things, it becomes not escapism. It becomes controlling and bossy. um, so that was where I was going with this particular slide. You guys keep talking. William Jeffrey Rankin says it doesn't impose values, it exemplifies them. Yes, thank you. That was very well put. John, oh, I'm going to mispronounce this. I'm so sorry. Aukamp says there's value in art that I also disagree with, but there doesn't seem to be an attempt at exploring these themes with any amount of skill. Yes, and with any room for like a grown-up debate, right? Like one thing that is particularly frustrating to me, the theme of environmentalism. We should be able to have a conversation based on a shared value that we need to take care of our space, right? Like we need to take care of the world around us. We should be nurturing and protecting the beauty of the natural world. We should be able to have a discussion of mutual respect. But instead, it becomes like a political thing where it's like, well, if you don't think that we should sacrifice everything in the way that I think that we should, or if you think that we should sacrifice things that I think are important, then we're enemies and we can't even talk about things, right? We have to have dramatic lines drawn between along political lines, right? Like political policies, even, where we should be able to, within a story, have a back and forth. It's instead become, well, you stand here and you say this, and then I'll say this, and you say this, and I'll say this, and then all of a sudden you're magically converted, or you're the bad guy, the enemy, and have to be defeated and taken down. It's really a bummer. It eliminates that exploration element that you're talking about, John. Walton Smith says, I'm sorry, I just randomly got recommended this live feed. I'm sorry for trolling you. Please don't be sorry. I'm so excited to have people to argue with me. Entertainment is always going to reflect the values of the society that produced it. Also, environmentalism is inherently political. I hardly see any environmental messages that specific. Sure, um, it's it's not a pet project anymore. Not like diversity. Um, so I think we've been seeing less environmentalism sort of in that sort of pleasant general sort of way. Uh, it's everything's connected with climate change now. So but um, that's kind of what I'm talking about. I guess it's like if you don't think like I do about this issue, then we can't even talk about like the minor steps in between, or things that we should agree on. It's just it's just a bummer. That's what it is. Okay, so I want two things. I want to see my values in fiction. I don't think that is something that would be hypocritical of me to say, that I don't want politics, but I do want to see my values. I also want to be left alone to enjoy my escapism. And I don't think that every single story or every single piece of entertainment that I interact with has to have those. Does that make sense? I am perfectly happy to read a story and realize that the author doesn't share my values if they are letting me enjoy my escapism, right? And I am admittedly willing to make some concessions about how much politics is too much politics if I see my values being treated with love and respect, right, by the author or the creator or whoever is behind the entertainment, right? So I think that there is some wiggle room there, if that makes sense. Okay. My position is from somebody who reads a lot and wants indies to succeed. And so I'm going to talk in like for like a takeaway here in the context of what can we do as readers, as customers of entertainment generally, but specifically as readers, and talk about, in light of sort of this ongoing discussion and conversation that's happening on both sides of the political spectrum, both sides of the spectrum. That doesn't make any sense. You guys know what I mean, though. How can we take what we're seeing happening in the conversation and use it to leave good reviews to help promote the indies that we enjoy? And obviously you could also promote mainstream stuff by leaving similar reviews, but I like indies. The first is, my first point is that the meme works because even though political people, right, people who care a lot about politics as opposed to politics as a consequence of my values, they don't, even though they don't understand it, other customers do. Many customers do, I should say. So if you note in a review that something is good for escapism, that can be really helpful for those kinds of people who are looking for something that is not going to be strangling them or manipulating them And then the the idea of something being too ham-fisted doesn't really matter for taste, right? If you say this was good escapism, and then you talk a little bit about what you liked about the story, that will be helpful for people who really would like to not interact with politics, right? The sort of second thing would be being open about the values and themes that you encountered in a story, especially how you felt about them. If you include that in a review, that can be really, really helpful for a reader who is actively looking for something that's more politically friendly to them. And it can also set expectations for readers who are not necessarily actively looking for that, but are interested in the book or entertainment in general. Setting the expectation for the reader is important. I think a lot of authors are maybe reluctant to, show their hand too much when it comes to things like politics, or like if it is a book that treats Christianity sort of openly, because they think that might drive people away. But what you don't want is people to be surprised by those things. And if you set expectations, some readers will have more tolerance than they would have if they went in without thinking that that was going to be an element. So if you are reviewing a book and you leave that kind of, hey, this was in there, I liked it, right? Or this was in there and I noped out, right? That is helpful. So those are two things that you could incorporate into reviews when you are sitting on the Amazon page trying to think of what to say about the book that you just read. Did you enjoy it? Was there a escapism element, or were there political, or even less than that? Were there values that were promoted within the book that affected how you saw it? And that can be really, really helpful. All right, I'm going to check in on your guys' conversation. Oh goodness, Marx has come up. So John says, that is true. I think the frustrating thing is not really the politics, but the fact that liking a random product makes you an enemy. This is an absurd state of affairs. Yeah. Walton Smith says, it does bother me when the diversity is irrational. For example, if the residents of a medieval village are inexplicably racially diverse with no explanation. But you can't say that, because automatically you are the enemy of everything that people who want representation to be increased stand for. Literally everything they stand for. Patrick says, we just need to follow Henry Cavill. Is that how you say his name? I literally don't listen to people talk about some movie stars. Is he even really a movie star? I've heard people say he's a TV star. Whatever he likes and wants to star in is based until he stars in it. I'm calling it the Cavill uncertainty principle. Okay. You guys, this has been so much fun. And that was all I had for you. um, I I am so excited to talk about this kind of stuff with you guys, and I Walton Smith says, "I am a leftist. I just said it, and I'm not the enemy of myself." Good, good. Don't be your don't be your own enemy. Patrick says, "I've enjoyed the slides and the memes." Katie, those memes you keep posting online are almost always amazing. How do you do it? Well, Patrick makes them, except when I steal them from other people. Okay. I think that I have exhausted everything that I was going to say. I just thought it was really interesting that so many people were having pretty unrelated conversations all about the same thing. And I don't really know if it all started at one central hub or if it just happens that people are feeling more political. But I really enjoy these sort of like nitty gritty, deeper conversations about things. Like I really enjoyed having the conversation argument on Twitter about the virtues and values of Lord of the Rings and whether or not it was a Christian story or a pagan story. I thought that was fun, and I was initially super excited when the guy replied to me, and then like bummed out when he didn't reply again. And then the this these interactions that I had sort of made me think about whether or not it was fair to say that I don't want politics in my entertainment. And I think I mean something very specific when I say that, but I don't think it makes sense to people who are generally like politically minded. I would not say that I'm politically minded at all. So there's that. I would say that I'm very like on that continuum that I had one step back, sort of in the virtues and values. I feel very strongly about that, but I feel less strongly about policy, and especially not about like who's our guy. Like I'm like, my voting is very much values based and not politics based, and so it really bothers me when people want to make the conversation about politics all the time. But I think the conversations that I had really helped me to think through things and to sort of organize my thoughts about the seemingly conflicting desires to see no politics in my entertainment, while also wanting the values and the truth that my politics are based off of in my entertainment. And I thought it really interested me that there were people who would generally agree with me politically saying something that I felt very, very strongly against. So yeah. I'm really pleased with the caliber of discussion on Twitter lately. It's been better than usual. I so Walton Smith says it was both. That was a very, very fun conversation about Lord of the Rings, and I I didn't make a video about it, but I had a lot of fun thinking about that one as well. Um, and I think that my conclusions from that conversation and my conclusions from this conversation are are um, are not opposed to one another, if that makes sense. Um, like I decided that my my conclusion was that author intention in something like saying my story is a Christian story, that intention is very important. And like the themes and like the virtues and values that are evident in the book should support that. Otherwise, it's a nonsense statement, right? Um, but like the whether or not a particular value or like content thing, right? Like the conversion scene or like no sex, right? Whether or not those are present doesn't change the effect of the whole. And I think that I would still apply that politically, um, like to this political conversation. That there doesn't need to be check boxes that's to say this entertainment is right-wing entertainment, right? Uh, that's just not a value that I have. And the effect of the work as a whole should be primarily escapism, entertainment. And then if there are greater themes, those can be discussed. Start conversations, right? Even if you don't agree with the author, to start thinking about things. Okay, I'm officially rambling because it's the end of the stream. As always, I encourage you guys to help support indies. Try indie alternatives to mainstream entertainment. I think that whether or not you agree politically with the people who are making entertainment in the mainstream, supporting smaller creators is always optimal. And right now, they are doing more interesting things, in my opinion, largely because they don't have somebody leaning over their shoulder saying, have you checked X, Y, and Z box yet? Leave reviews. When you talk in an indie community, particularly in indie authors community, there's a lot of push for readers to leave reviews because they help the author. Maybe true. Maybe Amazon does things with algorithms. Maybe not. It's a mystery. But they do help other readers, which is what the algorithm is supposed to be optimizing, right? So if you as a reader enjoy an indie book, leaving a review will help somebody else to maybe not find it, but decide if it is something that they want to take a chance on. I think if you want to help promote indies beyond reviews, saying in a social media setting, I enjoyed this book, that is also an effective review. and a way to help other people find indies when the algorithm is a mystery and will likely not be promoting a small creator until they become not a small creator. And then I encourage you guys to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know if you are interested in any particular sci-fi fantasy recommendations or subgenres. Sci-fi fantasy is my focus, and again, books are my focus. And I post my reviews at periapsispress.com. You guys are not gonna, you're not gonna draw me into a conversation about Tolkien. It would be very, very easy. You guys have got to help me stay on track here. John points out purity test mindsets for entertainment seems to be the problem on both sides for me. Yep, I agree. Left or right sometimes want acknowledgement rather than exploring themes or ideas. Yep. All right, you guys, good night. Have a great evening / night. I don't know where you guys are located in the world, but it's late for me. And I will do a separate Tolkien stream starting right after this. No. One of these days, I just should start going through all my Tolkien books with you guys. Talk about like diving into like the deeper conversations about stuff. Okay, I'm cutting myself off here. Guys, have a great night.